Hi, my name is Roberta Jones, and I look at the past to see into the future. In the heart of Rome, in the Parione district, there is an extraordinary phenomenon that skillfully blends engineering, art, and devotion. On Saturday mornings and holidays, you can admire an image of the Madonna that, thanks to a sophisticated mechanism, can either reveal itself or hide from visitors' eyes. This mechanized painting is housed in the Church of Santa Maria in Vallicella, which is also known as Chiesa Nuova, the new church, because of its reconstruction in 1575. Not new anymore, of course, but the name has stuck for 450 years. The device was designed by the famous Flemish artist Pieter Paul Rubens. It is a 14th century fresco called Madonna with Child Jesus and Two Angels, commonly known as the Madonna di Vallicella. But why does the fresco remain hidden and only appear on certain occasions? Let's look at the details of this fascinating object. The original fresco was found in a building near the church, known as the Stove Room. Someone had thrown a stone at the canvas. The Madonna apparently reacted by bleeding, and a miracle was declared. After the church was rebuilt, the work was moved to the high altar, where it risked becoming an easy target. Rubens was commissioned to create an altar panel that would complement the ancient sacred fresco. The task was to produce a painting that would serve as a frame for the picture and protect it by means of a striking Baroque mechanism. A copper oval shape which could be raised and lowered, showing the Madonna only occasionally, while the rest of the time the fresco remains hidden. This is one of the first mechanical works in the history of art. Through this ingenious operation, Rubens's painting shows us the intricate relationship between art and machines, human creation and technology. Rubens was both an artist and a technician in this case. Let's have a little etymological digression about the origins of the words art and technology. The words share a similar concept, even though they originate from different languages and cultures. The words art and artist come from the Latin ars, while technician and technique come from the Greek word techne. Both words convey the idea of practical knowledge and proficiency in a particular field, whether it be in the arts, crafts, or any other area requiring specialized skills. In Greek mythology, the artist was often associated with the figure of Vulcan, the skilled craftsman of Olympus, husband of Venus. Lame and ugly, he spent his time in his forge, where with the help of the Cyclops, he forged Achilles' shield, as Homer recounts in the Iliad, while Venus cheated on him with Mars, the god of war. Anyway, that's just a rather racy example to show that art can also refer to craftsmanship and technique. And what we are going to look at today is the link between creativity and technology and how art is affected by the virtual world. Yes, we like to travel far on this podcast. Will machines, specifically computers and AI, take over creativity, removing the supremacy of art from humans? The question was already considered as long ago as 1936 in an essay written by the avant-garde Walter Benjamin, entitled The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction. In principle, writes Walter Benjamin, the work of art has always been reproducible. A thing made by men has always been able to be remade by men. In contrast, the technical reproduction of a work of art at the beginning of the 20th century appears as a completely new process. This had two consequences. On the one hand, the proliferation of the reproduction of images, and on the other hand, the fact that the work of art was increasingly predisposed to being reproduced. Until recently, humans had the monopoly on the creation of an image, so the artist enjoyed the aura that has long surrounded his figure in our society. However, artificial intelligence and the virtual world are on the verge of depriving human beings of this privilege. Thanks to technologies such as deep learning, not only can machines learn to recognize increasingly complex images, but they are also able to create new ones, just like artists do. Let's take a concrete example. Since 2017, a Paris-based company called Obvious, formed by the entrepreneur and artist Pierre Fautrel, economist Gauthier Vernier, and machine learning expert Hugo Cassel-Dupré, have been producing paintings using a process that employs Generative Adversarial Networks, GAN for short, a technology developed by AI. The series of paintings, the Family de Belamy, comprises 11 works created by algorithms programmed with 15,000 classical portraits painted between the 14th and 20th centuries. After manually selecting the best images produced by GANs, the company framed printed versions of the portraits, affixed a mathematical formula as a signature, and offered the work for sale. In February 2018, art collector Nicolas Laugero bought Count de Belamy, a painting belonging to the series, for €10,000. To the great astonishment of the international art market, a few months later, another work from the same series, entitled Edmond de Belamy, sold at auction for $432,500 at Christie's in New York. While the media around the world emphasized the fact that the painting was created by AI, Pierre Fautrel insisted on the value of human intervention. He said, "Although the algorithm creates the image, it is we who dictate the intention. We use the algorithm as a tool, a very powerful one, perhaps with its own form of creativity, but we are the ones who decided to deal with the subject, to print it on canvas, to sign it with a mathematical formula, to frame it in gold." In other words, the machine creates, while the artist curates. However, another question arises: who is the copyright holder? The debate on the blurred boundaries between human and machine creation has been raging since the 20th century, when we had not yet entered what can be called the era of techno-aesthetics. For example, in the 1950s, the very years in which the idea of artificial intelligence was first formulated, the Swiss artist Jean Tinguely proposed the mathematics drawing machine. When activated, this drawing machine begins to draw autonomously. Tinguely wanted to subvert the utilitarian purpose of the machine and show that a machine, with the help of a human, could create art. The drawings vary depending on the manipulation of the machines, so no two drawings are identical. The machine, its maker, and the user participate equally in the creation of the work. In this case, the idea becomes the machine that creates the art. But in this case, even more questions arise. Taking up Caravaggio's statement that the style is the man, meaning that one's chosen style reflects one's essential characteristics. In this new formulation, would the style become the machine if it is the machine that carries out the work? To return to the artists using AI, although they insist that the machine remains a tool and not the true creator, the situation is not without paradoxes. The Obvious Collective in Paris launched the slogan, "Creativity is not only reserved for humans." From the very beginning, fueling the idea that the paintings were the work of autonomous algorithms. It seems that the AI artists themselves fuel this ambiguity. On the other hand, they acknowledge the human contribution as decisive, while on the other, they play with the idea that a machine can be the creator. Let us then take another step back in time and try to understand what AI is and how it interacts with art. The term first appeared in 1955 in a grant application for a workshop, and it transformed over the years to become an outgrowth of computer technologies related to cognitive knowledge and neuroscience. Artificial intelligence has a very diverse set of applications. Deep learning, for example, refers to that set of machine learning methods based on algorithms, structured as a network of artificial neurons capable of processing a vast amount of data. In the last decade, we have witnessed a major revolution in many fields, including the art world. Not only is the machine capable of recognizing images, but it is able to create new ones. The creation phase began around 2014-2015. Thanks to deep dream algorithms and the GAN network, these algorithms allow the images to be generated. This is a very important step that reevaluates the impact of AI on the visual culture of our time. Machines are actually capable of seeing images even when they do not appear on the screen and are therefore not visible to human beings. Machine vision can take place in a way that is inaccessible to the human eye and take in an enormous number of images that no human eye can even discern. This poses a real challenge to the theory of vision. Can an image be invisible, or can it be seen exclusively by human beings? The history of art has introduced us to many hidden images, such as the mechanized Rubens in Rome that we talked about at the beginning, or even the latent images in photographic films. But images that are visible only by machines represent a completely new phenomenon. Will the displacement of the human gaze also mean that it is stripped of its power? I'm sorry for all these philosophical, existential questions today, but the topic certainly calls for it. Now, just to spook you out a little bit more, alongside the creative potential of artificial intelligence, another phenomenon is shaking the art world. That of the dematerialization of works and their virtual replacement by something called non-fungible tokens, or NFTs for short. I will explain more about NFTs in a minute, but first let us look at a concrete example of a sale of digital art. In 2021, Mike Winkelmann, aka Beeple, who until recently was completely unknown to curators and gallerists, but was very popular on Instagram, suddenly became the third most expensive living artist in the world, after David Hockney and Jeff Koons. And yet, the work he sold at auction for $69,346,250 does not exist, except in the virtual world, and everyone can own a copy on their computer or phone. I know what you're thinking. I want to be this man who not only became a millionaire overnight, but he also made it in history. But then, why did the buyer pay so much? And to own what? Simple. An NFT. Non-fungible tokens. NFTs are new supports for numeric art and allow a digital image or object to be given a unique code that gives them value. An NFT is used to certify ownership and authenticity. It cannot be copied or substituted. Bitcoins are fungible tokens because the value of one Bitcoin corresponds exactly to the value of another Bitcoin, just as €1 corresponds to another euro. So exchanging one Bitcoin for another would be meaningless. In contrast, NFTs are not fungible, which means they are unique and not interchangeable, characteristics that establish a clear link with works of art, whose uniqueness is one of the fundamental values for establishing their value, and thus also their price. Just as Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night and Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa are two unique and non-interchangeable works of art, the same is true for two different NFTs, although the first two works exist in the real world and NFTs in the virtual world. Before the invention of NFTs, the problem with digital art, as opposed to physical works, was the issue of reproducibility. Regardless of how rare a JPEG image might be in terms of content or style, it would always be infinitely replicable, right? And reproducibility is exactly what deprives art of its monetary value. Paradoxically, the only option to monetize digital works was to turn them into physical works of art, which could also be easy for images, but impossible for animation. NFTs represented a breakthrough because they gave value to something that had none and allowed digital products to have a single owner. This obviously applies to all other types of files as well as digital art. Jack Dorsey, the creator of Twitter, for example, sold his first tweet for $2.9 million. Do NFTs represent a speculative bubble or a paradigm shift in the art world? Either way, museums are also aligning themselves with the new virtual trends. Recently, the Uffizi Gallery sold the digital version of Michelangelo's Tondo Doni for $170,000, while the Belvedere Museum in Vienna, on the occasion of Valentine's Day 2022, decided to release 10,000 NFTs of Gustav Klimt's The Kiss, where each digital file corresponded to the high-resolution image of a unique part of the painting. In any case, NFTs are gaining so much power to the point of generating the destruction of physical works of art for the purpose of creating NFTs. Perhaps the most famous case of this phenomenon is the original Morons reproduction by Banksy, which was burnt in a live video and whose digital copy was sold through NFT for $380,000, more than the price of the original. Even Damien Hirst experimented with NFT. In his latest NFT project called The Currency, the British artist made 10,000 physical artworks linked to 10,000 digital NFTs. After the tokens are sold, owners will have 1 year to choose whether to keep the physical object or the NFT, and the object they do not wish to keep will be destroyed. So, what changes and transformations is the artwork undergoing in the digital and multimedia era, that is, in the era of its technological production? In the electronic sphere, we observe a further detachment, since the electronic image is configured as a production without copies, lacking the original. Imagery, on the other hand, appears increasingly virtualized.
Work it, make it, do it, makes us.
Now, for the time being, machines are far from being autonomous and lack intentionality. We are nowhere near the machine artist. Instead, we are witnessing an intertwining of human intentions and the possibilities offered by AI. Throughout these decades of technoculture, humans and machines are increasingly interacting with each other, until eventually culminating in the union expressed by virtuality. We have to wait for the future developments of these technologies to see if there will be a breakthrough moment in which the machine will take over, and through its generative capacity, dispossess the artist of the privileged role of creator. What do you think? Do you think the machine will manage? And I'm going to leave you there with that thought in mind. Let me know what you think about this topic. You can always write to me as well on Instagram. You can follow the page Roberta Jones Podcast, where I also post the images that I talk about in every episode. Also, of course, don't forget to subscribe and like the podcast, or even spread the word. It really helps. As you know, there's a lot of work involved in this podcast. In fact, I'd like to thank all my collaborators, Paulina Spiekovic for the research and writing of this episode, Christabel Anderson for the sound editing, Catherine Ruth Halstead for the translation and editing of the text, Matteo Alessandro for sound editing and sound effects. Thank you so much, everyone, and until next time. Bye!